Have you ever wondered what the science behind baking was? Hi, I'm Cortlan Harrell, and I'm going to teach you how to bake an easy vanilla and strawberry cake using my recipe. We'll talk about what each ingredient adds to a cake and why we use them. This year my scenario was on the science of baking. I learned about how certain ingredients can affect a baked good and developed my own recipe. Through tons of experience and research, I feel that I've come a long way in my baking career. First, we have to get the ingredients and then we bake. The ingredients will be on the screen now. To start, combine the dry ingredients in a bowl. The dry ingredients are flour, baking powder, and salt. Flour is a very important ingredient in baking as it gives structure and makes gluten. Inside the cake, the gluten will create a web that keeps the cake sturdy. Baking powder creates a chemical reaction when combined with the wet ingredients that releases carbon dioxide into the batter, making it lighter and fluffier. Also, I made this mistake of sifting the flour. Don't do that in this case. It helps sometimes, but depending on the other ingredients and what you're sifting, it might not. You'll see what happens because of this later in the video. Okay, for step 2 we have to cream the butter. I'll elaborate on this more later, but for right now I'll just talk about what the ingredients do. So butter adds a ton of flavor and moisture to the cake. And in this step it also adds air to the cake and acts as a leavening agent. A leavening agent is something that helps bring air into a baked good. Next, the sugar. In baking, sugar is often a key ingredient because it makes everything taste better and brings out other flavors like vanilla, and in this cake specifically, the strawberry and the frosting. Additionally, it acts as a leavening agent as well. Because it holds onto water, it creates structure for gas expansion when being baked. On the topic of sugar, whenever a baked good reaches 320 degrees Fahrenheit, it will smell like caramel because that's when the sugar has caramelized. Next, on to step 3. Now we're adding the eggs and vanilla. Add the eggs one at a time and make sure to incorporate one before you add another. The batter shouldn't be very pretty right now, and should look separated and gross. When you fry an egg, the egg becomes solid. The same thing happens within a cake. When it reaches a certain heat, the eggs will solidify and provide structure for the cake. As you're mixing, remember that they need to be mixed in one at a time so that the batter doesn't get too liquidy. Next, add the vanilla. Vanilla doesn't do much for a cake in regards to structure and texture, but it does add flavor and enhance others. Remember to scrape down the sides of your bowl after mixing to make sure everything is completely combined. Step 4. Mixing the dry ingredients with the wet ones. This step is a little difficult to explain, but basically you need to add a third of the dry ingredients to the wet ingredients, then half of the milk and the sour cream, then a third of the dry ingredients, then the rest of the milk, then all of the leftover dry ingredients. The reason to add the milk and the dry ingredients in little increments is to avoid making the cake batter too dry or too wet. The sour cream also makes the cake super light and fluffy, but luckily doesn't add flavor. Make sure that everything is combined well and mixed thoroughly. To finish, pour the batter into 2 floured 9-inch cake pans with parchment paper on the bottom. I've never had good luck with cakes coming out of the pan smoothly until I started going seemingly way overboard with the amount of precautions I took. To guarantee that your cakes will come out smoothly with little to no effort, butter every inch of the pan and make sure to get into the crease. Then cut out a circle of parchment paper and place it into the pan. Butter the parchment paper and take a spoonful of flour and dump it into the pan. Shake that around and coat everywhere. Then after that, just pour half of the batter into one pan and the other half into the other pan. Put the cakes in for 25 minutes on 375 degrees. Notice when you smell the sugar caramelizing. The cakes should take longer to cook than 25 minutes, but as a precaution, take it out and test it at 25 minutes. To test it, take a toothpick and push it into the center. If it comes out dirty, put it back in for about 5 minutes. Remember not to open the oven when you don't need to, as it might deflate the cakes. After you've taken out the cakes and they've cooled for a bit, take a butter knife and circle around the cake in the pan. It helps to slightly angle the knife so that you don't accidentally cut the cake. Put your hand on the bottom of the pan and the top, then flip it over. The cake should slide out easily. Level the cake with a bread knife and put it in a fridge to cool for ideally 2 hours or more. After this, it should be ready to ice. Now we're going to make the frosting. It's a pretty simple recipe and only has a few ingredients. First we have to make a puree, which to do that we're going to chop up some strawberries in fairly large chunks so that a blender can handle it. And then we just blend them up and then after that it should have a soft pink color. So now we're gonna just simmer this here until it reduces to about like 18 ounces and continuously stir so that it doesn't burn. It should be boiling by the end, at least. So now we have to cream the butter. It should be like 1 stick of butter and it needs to be room temperature, because if it's not room temperature then it won't combine as well and it'll take way too long to combine, and then we'll overmix the frosting and lose the structure. Creaming butter is really easy. All you have to do is just mix it until it gets to like, it should look like icing, but I'll show you. So I just finished creaming it and it should look like this. So now we add the 2 cups of sifted powdered sugar. It's really important to sift the sugar so that it's very smooth and light and airy. Sifted and in the pot. You want to mix it until it's all combined. It should take like a few seconds and look like rocky for a little bit, but then it'll combine and look like dry-ish icing. So after you mix it up, it should look like this. I have to scrape down my side still and then like mix it one more time just to get it fully incorporated. So now we need to add 3 tablespoons of the puree. And then we can mix it again. After that, it should look like this. It's like a liquidy, light pink with some small spots. Next, we need to add some more sifted powdered sugar. You should add 2 more cups of it to the batter. So after you've incorporated the last bit of powdered sugar, it should look like this. Now is when you can add like any add-ins that you want. And you also have to add in vanilla. When you're finished, the icing should look like kind of stiff peaks, but the right consistency. So then you should be done with a nice, soft and light icing. So this is my final cake. I think it turned out pretty well and I can't wait to taste it. Thank you for watching.